let's do the roll. John?
I'm here.
All right. Carol?
I'm here.
Trish? I'm here.
Here.
Rob, you're here. Dan, you're
Here.
here. All right, we got a full board. All right. All right, let's pause for a moment of silence and then we'll stand for Pledge of Allegiance. Right. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. Okay. Everybody had a chance to take a look at the agenda. Any additions or changes? Okay, hearing none, could I have I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda? All in favor? Oh, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Moves forward. We have no public, therefore no public comment on the agenda. The minutes, has everybody had a chance to review the May 23rd, 2024 minutes? Any questions, comments, corrections? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve the May 23rd, 2024 meeting minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Rob, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes unanimously. Okay, land development review. 7.1, discussion and possible recommendation of the land development application for 4019 West Chester Pike. And I just saw John Hosbach's letter. Did you want to go ahead and give an overview?
So, fortunately, no trees over 3 inches are being removed on the site. However, there are 7 2-inch upper trees. I can go out on the site. Outside, they're corrected. No heritage trees are being removed. So in my memo, only one concern, on the right side of the proposed improvements, there's a large stand of trees. On page 3. That I would like to have that whole area. I think there's one long fence all the way around. That'll keep people from storing the materials or, parking equipment. Time, so put the whole entire fence down. No trees are required for replacements because they're under our inches.
Okay,
So it's pretty clean. Clear cut.
not meaning all the trees are going to be clear cut, meaning that it's.
Yeah. And the 2-inch trees are not great.
Okay. Okay, that sounds good. All right, all right. And then so otherwise their application was above board and in compliance with everything. Okay. Thanks, John. Any discussion? So should there be, I know if we do vote, then we'll just put the contingent that they, okay. Any discussion? Concerns? Guys are really quiet.
Already done.
Great. All right. Any other concerns? All right. So I'll make a motion to approve the, or to make a recommendation, huh? I'll make a motion to make a recommendation on the approval of the land development application with respect to trees at 4019 West Chester Pike, contingent upon the applicant incorporating the arborist recommendation to, include, a total tree protection in the area that he had denoted. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Right. Motion passes. All righty. On to new business. So Carol and I met with members of the EAC to talk about the fall tree planting program. And we're set to have another meeting tomorrow. We also met with Steve.
Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. We met with the EAC. We met with Cindy, with Cindy and Sheila. Yep. And then we did that by Zoom. And then we had a follow-up meeting that included an in-person meeting with Steve Neese and Sheila and Cindy, Carol and myself.
Okay.
So during the meeting with Steve, we came to consensus on where we would target the planting to be, and I don't have my notes handy. You have notes from them?
Probably, yeah. We can try and pull it there.
Let's see.
First is gonna be Winding Way and Beechwood. to
Yeah, that's
start.
it. Mm-hmm.
And then Ashley and Brookside was the second wave. So basically what we're going to do is, the township is gonna send postcards saying that we want to do this and see if there's any interest. And, so we're gonna hit Winding Way and Beechwood first, and we'll see what kind of response we get. And if we still have, we think we have enough money to go and do a couple more. The second wave would be Ashley and Brookside. Third wave would be Furlong, Woodcrest, Furlong and Woodcrest, and the fourth would be Ridgefield.
Right. And so we're targeting to plant about 125 trees in the area to help, give or take. It all depends on some of the recommendations that we get and thoughts from here on the commission. Is to target areas where it would help somewhat to benefit the MS4. So it's some of those areas that has been identified as priority areas. So that's what kind of prompted this. Also was a mitigating factor is that there were some known residents along those streets that would likely act as tree captains. We really want this one to go off very well. So we also discussed a strategy on how we would go about potentially getting the trees. We would deliver the trees, meaning the township, then maybe if
Um,
Wow.
well, yeah.
Hole digger.
If you're gonna ask for a favor, you should at least know the name.
No, I knew his name. I just wanted to try to verbalize it more nicely and say, and if Rob's offer was still there on the table. If you'd be still willing to go ahead and dig some of those holes. The feeling is that the resident should have some level of skin in the game. So Steve suggested that there be a fee of like $40 per tree to help offset the cost for the bags, the mulch, and the ties and things like that we're going to need.
What size trees are these gonna be?
Where did we finally land? I think we didn't land on the size. I think that was gonna be contingent on what was available, but we were trying to get as large as we could that was manageable. So we were thinking,
considering our budget.
and our budget and what container, what did we say?
7 gallon, 5 gallon?
5 gallon, I think is what we were looking at.
Well, Rob, you mentioned that one of
Uh,
the meetings, mentioned that one of the meetings, called back a larger size tree.
Yes, and my point is, if we're requiring land development plans to put in a 2.5 inch size tree, don't you think the township, if they're sponsoring a tree thing, should put in that size tree?
I have no.
I mean, I know the money
It's
is
the
X amount,
factor.
but don't we do a smaller thing and do a long thing? And shouldn't we follow the same guidelines if we're planting trees that we make other people do?
100%. If we didn't have you, Rob. Oh. Getting up to the site, moving it around here. Really help. Hopefully. Volunteer that.
Yeah, that's fine. Like I said, there's no problem doing that. As long as I know when it is and when they're gonna be there, I don't have a problem. And obviously, they all have to be marked out. We discussed this last month. That the OPA one call has to be called, and it all has to be marked out and placed where they're gonna be. And, you know, if it's only 30 or 40 trees that are planted that are a decent sized tree, that when you look down that road, you see that they were planted, and someone says, well, who planted your tree? You know, the other residents, then it's steamrolls. But if it's a little thing like they planted in Brookside Park, small stuff, even if it's, you know, 1-inch stuff, it takes so long for that to establish and get up to the size that.
What's gonna dictate the size versus the cost is gonna be,
Mhm.
so if we have, what is our budget for that?
7,700.
So, does anybody have a calculator right there?
So if you have 100 trees, that's $77 per tree.
Excellent. Rob, what do you, Rob and Dan, what do you guys buying trees?
Well, I have a nursery up in Doylestown that will, like, end of the year, somewhere between, you know, 2.5-inch caliber tree, he's gonna offload them for somewhere around $200, you know, in that ballpark.
So what's that give us?
Forty trees, somewhere about there, right?
So, I mean.
30
if
trees?
If we are going to insert a cost share. Dollars. Probably not going to get funds you. My opinion.
I don't know. I mean, if someone said that they're gonna come give me a tree and help plant it for $40, hell yeah, that's what I would say.
The normal lay person. Normal person. Us, you're in the trees. You know that.
Yeah, I really am agnostic. Cause I can see both sides. I totally see your point. You know, having a more substantive tree definitely makes more of an impact. And especially when if we're going to be doing something like this annually, then certainly having something that's more impactful that might help to encourage people to want to get more trees on their property. I see that too. Then conversely, I see like the EAC side and Steve's side, it's like, well, the more trees that we get planted now, because what's the old adage? You know, that the best time to plant a tree is last year, you know? So the more you get in the ground, you know, the more benefits that we could potentially have down the road and with getting more interest.
Well, I mean, that's totally gonna be based on what kind of.
Exactly.
If we get 30 people that sign up, then we can go with a 2.5-inch stock.
Right,
If we get 300 people that sign up, try a different.
Right.
platforms.
right.
But we can get some bigger trees and are pushing 2.5-inch. For benefit.
I mean, I personally won't do anything for it.
I think that's what you guys were shooting for.
Whatever we could get, you know, as good as we could get with the money.
That's $7,700. Is that, if we're getting.
That's our total budget.
Boy, it's gonna have to, that $40 is gonna come back in.
Well, I've already talked to George. George is on vacation this week away, so, But he did email me back and gave me the information for what he researched for, you know, stakes and ties and gator bag and trunk protection. And total, that comes to about $55 per tree.
For the accessories.
Yeah. 55. He said when it comes closer to time,
Do they
might
really
be able
need-
to get a better cost.
A properly planted tree, does it really need to be staked?
No, I don't.
Either do I, because they want it loose anyway. They don't want it tight because it screws up the caliber of the trunk when it's growing, because it doesn't grow properly. Yeah.
But are helpful. Back when they do.
I mean, you can use
Back of the way.
corrugated plastic. I use, it's a heavy, I mean, that stuff's cheap too. I mean, you can buy a 250-foot roll for what? I haven't, mostly I get it for free.
$50.
Yeah.
Let's keep the
Yeah.
cost there in case we need them. Only gonna benefit our cost. Bad.
I mean, I'd rather you see, if they're gonna do something, get, the stuff in the baby diapers, mix it in the planting hole. You
Yeah,
know,
soil
soil moist. I'd rather see, put money into that. So if they're not, yeah, because that lasts what, 5 years, soil moist? Yeah, so I'd rather put that in the hole, but it's only like on a 2.5-inch caliber tree, you're only putting, what, 4-6 ounces?
Table.
Yeah, in the hole. So, I mean, it goes a long way, you know, and it makes a big difference.
Put too much in it. the tree out.
Yeah, to push down. You can't put it in the bottom of the hole.
The roots grow through it, it's gel. Look like rice. In the ground, and then all of a sudden it bands, the water, the roots grow through it, and that rise, absorbs that moisture, and then it radiates. When some guy put too much in, it'll look.
Wow. Okay, so how much does that stuff cost?
Yeah, I mean, you can buy a 5-gallon bucket for probably $125,
That'll last you the rest of your life.
you know. And they have the stuff that
We're gonna
has,
do it.
they have the stuff that,
Donate.
for, you know.
Alright. Okay, so here was the thing is that I know that EAC was very adamant about following a lot of the tree tender requirements. And I think that's where the staking came in and
Yeah.
things like, so, but honestly, I'm with you kind of on the stakes. I don't think it's all that necessary. So if we want to make a recommend, do we as a group?
Say let's follow the recommendation.
Okay. All right.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay.
Can we just attach it so it's loose so the tree can?
Well, well, it's supposed to be,
Well,
So the one thing that we were talking about too was maybe the people that were going to be like street captains is that we could have some education for them and have material for them and even for the homeowner, and it would be on, and the material on how to care for the tree would be on the township's webpage. So maybe we would need to come up with something and maybe we could include a discussion about the pros and cons with the stakes.
Yeah.
Keep it, have the homeowner keep an eye on it.
we should write up, obviously, a description of, watering, when to remove the ties for the tree guards, I mean, the tree stakes. Proper mulching. We could wrap a little, almost like a door hanger,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying? That being said, being back very quickly, easier. We get a big turnout and we have to look at our cost. If we get minimal turnout, 30 to 40, let's get the biggest bang for our buck.
And there's also certain trees you don't want to plant in the fall. There's certain trees you don't want to
Yeah.
plant in the fall. I mean, there's fall hazard.
Well, most of those trees are getting.
Well, they're dug, but even like the nursery guy I talked to, he's like, you don't want to do magnolias in the fall. You don't want to plant a birch in the fall. Wait, spring, do them. I mean, I don't.
Everything.
He's like red buds you don't want to plant in the fall. He's like, there's certain things, you know, even though they're out of the ground from the spring, you don't want to plant them until they bud in the spring, almost bud in the spring, because you know, he's like, you can run into problems. And the nursery guy said that, you know. I'm like, even though we were spring dug, he said, I'd be leery, you know, let it overwinter in my nursery, and it's gonna live. Oh, yeah. Magnolias, he said too, which I was surprised. I think, I don't know, he just said magnolia. He didn't say type or whatever, you know, but
Sweet Bay or?
Sweet Bay definitely fall. If you're doing container, you can do stuff. Container stuff is.
as long as the container was cycled out properly as it was growing. Because I've seen trees that 2 pots ago, it was encircled and they stuck it in another pot, it grew out of that and eventually it killed the tree.
Okay. All right, so tree size and quantity is still in flux, and we're gonna base that on turnout response.
Guys, narrow down on,
Mm-mm.
the wish list or anything? Would be all large canopy trees?
Well, I think Sheila and Cindy had talked about that they were going to do site visits along the street to find out if there's any power lines that might, Right.
I think most of the power lines are rear of those properties.
that's what I think that
That's what they
Sheila
said.
was saying.
Most run the rear of those property because it gets both sides of the street. It'll get like Brookside and Ashley, so it runs down. Most of those power lines run the back of the properties. So that shouldn't be a problem front wise.
Good memory, Rob.
Mhm.
I've worked in this township many years. I've
So-
worked around them wires many times.
So I think also we were talking about, I mean, I think that they would, I think that was also contingent upon availability at the nurseries. You know, and whether or not, you know, certain species are available, that we would have kind of like a suite, that we weren't going to ask people, to say, well, this is the tree that you want, we're gonna have maybe a tree, species could be XYZ, P, D, or Q, you know, we could have a list of those species, but we won't commit because that's gonna be based on availability. Is
And
what
obviously,
we had talked
if
about.
you go like with a red maple, like an October glory, they're extremely fast growing.
Yeah.
You know, that'll outgrow a white oak tenfold, you know? So, I mean, I would shoot towards them. If you're trying to get tree canopy over the street to cool the streets down, I would say, you know, I would target maples. You know, oak is okay, but they're very slow growing, you know?
So part of our install, you're anticipating us putting the water bag, everything on the tree so that when we walk away, they're held just to do some watering and then some cultural practices going forward.
Yeah, I think the expectation is that the homeowner is gonna be there with us,
Oh, perfect.
helping us to do this, that it isn't gonna be just us doing it for them and they sit back on the veranda with their,
That's awesome.
you know,
I mean, you
cider.
figure if it's gonna be like on a Saturday or something, I could go in on a Friday afternoon, start digging. I'll be way ahead of everybody that's backfilling the holes, the volunteers or whatever they want to have, you know.
What kind of response do you think you're gonna get off the cuff?
According to Cindy and Sheila, I think that we'll probably get a pretty good response, especially in those areas, given the fact that Sheila has already talked to a number of neighbors
And she lives there.
and she lives there. Well, it's her neighbors. And then there's another gentleman who lives on an adjacent street that's on our list here, who's very active. What was he?
Marty.
Marty,
Milligan?
yeah,
Milligan.
and
Has the $40 come up?
yes,
Oh,
in our
yeah.
meeting with Steve, Steve's the one who's kind of set that fee. And he prefers to have some sort of engagement, some skin in the game, as he says, by the homeowner. And then also having that expectation that they're gonna be with us and we're gonna show them how to properly plant the tree if they wanted to plant any more. And then, how to care for it. And then we could give them like that door hanger like you're talking about.
Excellent.
I mean, my personal opinion is obviously the first thing in the budget is we put in for trees again, but the same thing.
Good.
That should, like, if we're doing a spring planning, that money should be approved and available by then. So if we have, say you had 50 people respond and said they wanted trees, or even like 60, and you put a larger caliber tree, you just do them in, I mean,
We
yeah, you
could.
plant in the fall and then you just do the next one in the spring.
That could be our Arbor Day thing.
You know, that's what you do. Yeah, Arbor Day, and that's what you do. And Arbor Day is plant those trees, those extra trees.
That's a good idea.
That wasn't in the budget before, so you have the larger tree,
That's a good idea.
you know, it's an ongoing thing. I understand you want to plant 115 trees for this MS4 plan and all the other stuff, but I think you're better off doing a larger tree that's gonna be, you know, you look down, not so much Brookside, but you look down Ashley Road around the bend, there's no trees at all. You know, it's they were all ash trees, they're gone, you know, and then the oaks were pin oaks and they're, you know, declined over the years and stuff like that. So I think a larger tree that you see up there, you know, and a maintained tree, when people look down and say, oh yeah, they got a tree. I mean, it's gonna, you know, and if you promote it, I think it'll catch on in the township, you know? That's my personal opinion.
I mean, that makes sense. So I mean, once we find out the response, then we'll allocate sizes based on that and
Yeah.
species.
Okay,
And, you know,
I mean,
shade
obviously-
versus ornamental.
The one nursery I talked to, the guy I dealt with many times, he's like, call me in like September. He's like, I will pretty much know what will kind of be available, you know? Do you want tulip poplars? Do you want, you know what I mean? Something like that. Poplars, maples. You want a variety. You just don't want one species to put in because, you know,
I think that's an excellent plan. Good job, Tris, on that, and Carol, and Cindy, and Sheila.
solid. Go team.
It's all about.
Did you hear us talking about you?
No, but that's okay.
He's used to it, right? But it's
So-
all up, so.
Good.
Yeah, we were talking about, you know, the meeting that we had with EAC and the Shade Tree about the fall tree planting.
Yeah.
And, what our primary discussion here has been centered around is what size tree
Yep.
to plant. And, there's a bit of the EAC seems to want to plant more smaller trees, quantity over the size, I think is kind of like we had talked about, maybe 125 trees, and they would be at what, an inch and a half caliber or something along that. The members of Shade Tree have a recommendation that we should have no smaller than 2 inches. And then having that larger tree is of course more expensive, so that means less. So what we sort of settled out was, let's just see what kind of response we get from the mailers. And then that would help to dictate maybe the quantity and size of the trees. Because we might want to go larger and fewer to make more of an impact. And then Rob came up with an excellent idea, since we're coming into like a new fiscal year, that maybe in the fall or in this, we put in a budget request for a spring planting And because some of the trees, if I'm bungling this, please correct me. But apparently there are certain species of trees that are better planted in the spring, like the redbud and river oak and things like that, that would also be excellent shade trees that meet this need. But they're better to be planted in the spring versus the fall. So maybe we target, maybe for this effort, the larger trees that are make more of an impact to gain interest and you know, have the folks that drive down that street say, hey, where'd you get that tree? I want a nice big tree like that in my yard. And then maybe we can focus on having this be like an annual spring, fall kind of, and actually the planting in the spring could pull double duty for meeting our Arbor Day requirements as
Sure.
well. So I don't know, and then there was some question about how do we come up with the $40 fee? Because there is some feeling that that might dissuade some people from wanting to get a tree. It doesn't cover the full cost, but I expressed my opinion that I think it's important that a homeowner have some level of engagement and something vested into it. So,
Particularly if
yeah.
we're asking them to make sure they keep it alive, it's
Exactly.
like, you know, it's
Mhm.
a little bit of.
I mean, if you have 30 trees and it's dry like it is now. What's that? Well, I mean, it's one of those things, I mean, one of us could check it and see that the people are actually watering it or whatever like that, drive around. There's some people that are retired now that, you know, could go around giving a recommendation.
Has nothing better else to do, right, Carol?
You're looking at.
No, I'm looking at you, Carol.
Well,
You're a tree person.
well, but that's why we wanted
You
to
know,
have
and say,
street
you know, please
captains.
water it. Do you have a hose? You know, we'll water it for you, you know, whatever. But, you know, the bags help, you know, you say fill it once a day or whatever. Yeah, you know.
So another thing that they were talking about was mulch. Now, it was sort of funny because the ladies on EAC had to go do research. And we said, we love the chips, like the chips that we
So what's your
use.
chair?
The
So
arborist chips.
Is there, yeah, they're calling them arborist chips. I don't really want to run an arborist through a chipper, but whatever. But is there usually a pile down there at Brookside Park?
Don't worry about seasoned wood chips. That's not an issue.
I mean,
How many thousand yards do you want?
okay, 12,000 would be nice.
I could probably pretty much accommodate you at this point in time.
Glad to hear it, glad to hear it. That's what we wanted to know.
What's that?
Second chip in.
Want to move to the budget? Into the goals?
Okay. All right, so so we'll just say that we've discussed new business. We're not taking any action at this time. We'll report back to the EAC tomorrow, our discussion, and we'll go from there. All right, moving on, discussion regarding the 2025 events, goals, and budget.
Actually, I am gonna ask that you take action. If you really do want, I think you should go on record, if you really want to try to do 2-inch trees or larger, I think you should go on record and say that's your goal for this planting. I mean, I just think that if that's what you want to do as a group, this is really your call
Okay.
because it's shade trees. And I mean, I know they're participating because of stormwater. But again, these are trees that are being planted in the right of way along the streets. This is where your commission has authority.
Okay.
And so if you wish to, if that's your desire is to have trees that are 2 inches or greater for this planting, and you'd rather do it that way, then I think you ought to go on record as stating that as the direction that you want to have.
Okay. Well,
two and eight.
So basically, if we took our 7,700, which is our budget, and divided it by $200 per tree.
250.
Don't worry about the other stuff. That's what their division thing is.
we're gonna
putting
figure
into
that
it.
out.
So basically, that'll end up to basically 38 trees. Would we be limiting our planting to about 38 trees?
Well, I'm,
Depends on the response.
you know, I mean, I think that. I think if you determine that you think that's what's going to make the most impact and the best direction. I think the advantage is that what I hear you saying is if I had 38 trees along one of those streets that were all nice size, people would drive down the street and there would be impact to that neighborhood. And look, it may take us 30 years to get through the township at this rate. I mean, it may take us longer than that, but that's okay. I mean, the idea here is to start something and hopefully people will say, oh, I want to do this anyhow. I mean, you know, it's the direction and hopefully somebody would say, I'd like to have 2 trees and I'm willing to pay the extra cost to have the second tree in my front yard because I've got a larger area to cover. I mean, the idea is not for the township to pay for every tree that's planted in the right of way. The idea is for us to take areas and make an impact. And if that's what we want to do, and that's the direction that you want to head, I think you ought to go on record in saying that's the direction that we want to head. And that way it gives you, Trish, you and Carol authority when having the conversation with Cindy and Sheila. This is what the Shade Tree Commission has given us direction on,
Okay,
if that makes sense.
it does. Then do we also want to make a decision if we're going with that, with a fewer number of trees, then we need to limit which, because we were talking about sending the flyers out in waves.
Yeah.
Like, so do we just want to focus on Beechwood then?
I would put it as a whole and see what your response is and say, you know, in your flyer or whatever you're gonna send out, saying there's approximately 40 trees available.
There's limitations.
First comes, first serve. In the spring, there's very possibly another 40 be available. A total of 80 trees, you know, and this will be an ongoing thing over, you know, maybe, you know, once a year or whatever, and who
It'd be like a
knows?
waiting list.
You know, maybe the supervisors might get nice and throw some money our way if they have money in lieu of, like
Yeah.
a building project, the money in lieu of, you know, we might get some money that way.
Yeah.
That we could plant maybe 20 more trees with a couple $1,000, you know? It's just one of those things.
So. But we also talked about in our meeting that we wanted to aggregate as much as possible the trees to one road,
Yeah.
right?
I think that makes sense.
I think the tighter the area, the more impact you'll have. You know, I mean, like
Right,
theoretically, let's say that half the houses participate. I don't know like, that's the thing we don't know until we've done it a couple times. But let's say half the houses participate. I would pick 80 houses because your goal is roughly 40 trees. I would pick 80 houses. I would say our limit right now, we believe is going to be 38 trees, but we will take and have a waiting list. Because who knows, maybe we get the trees for
Yeah, I mean,
$50
whatever,
less a
the guy- you
piece
say
than
we're
what we
gonna buy
thought we
40
would.
trees, the guy might say,
Okay.
the guy I know in the nursery might say, yeah, you know, just,
That impact is gonna be
yeah.
sourceful.
I just think if you have it, the further it's spread out, the less impact it has.
I agree.
And the key is to figure out where we're gonna have the impact. Go target that area and pick that area, you know. And I know why we picked Beechwood. But I would take a look on Beechwood and say, I'm looking here, there's no trees. This makes 100%. This is where we should go. But if I looked on Ashley and Ashley had less, I would pick Ashley. You know, and I'm just, that's how I would target it.
Our first wave was set up to be Winding Way and Beechwood.
Yeah.
Would that be too many houses to target? I mean.
We can take a look. I can ask Heather to pull, but we'll pull approximately 80 houses as a starting point.
Okay, so
Maybe we.
I just wanted,
First wave and might not even need a second wave.
yeah, so I was gonna say, if we were gonna make a motion, I'd like to kind of include in there that target area that we're
That's
gonna
fine.
focus. Okay. Thoughts?
Like it.
You know, I like it.
You come to the meeting tomorrow with me, that's all I'm gonna say. John?
When we're talking about 80 trees, are we talking about 80 houses?
Mhm.
How long?
Well, 40 trees, basically,
40 trees.
40 trees?
for the fall, maybe another 40 in the spring.
So how many blocks would that cover?
We're gonna only blocks, you mean streets?
We're not
Only
putting one in
wood.
every house. Obviously, some people have trees already.
Right.
So, I mean, it's one of those things you're doing the fill-ins where, and I'm sure I know on Beechwood, exactly, there's, you know, there's a row of probably 5 or 6 houses that have nothing.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? That you want, you know, that trees have died over the years, mostly ash trees in that, you know, area and stuff like that, oaks and stuff that had storm damage and beeches that had died, you know, but, go from there and just see what the response is, I guess.
Okay. All right, so.
We're gonna do a motion?
Yeah, I'm gonna make a motion. Sorry, I'm under the weather. Okay, so I make a motion that regarding the fall tree programming that we're doing in coordination with the EAC, that we recommend that the trees planted are no smaller than 2 inches, so between 2 and 2.5 inch caliber. And so with those larger trees, that means that we'll be targeting, there'll be fewer. So we're gonna target Winding Way and Beechwood, primarily Beechwood. Is that right?
Oh, yeah, that's the first wave.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. All right, so do I have a second? All right. John Rice seconds. All in favor? Okay. All right. So we will tell Cindy and Sheila that we're going with bigger trees. And we're gonna target along Winding Way and probably primarily Beechwood. I will blame you gladly.
Say, he is such a pushy person that he requested this and wouldn't step in.
You don't live on Beechwood, right?
What's that?
You don't live on Beechwood, right?
It's right up here.
No, I got plenty of trees.
Okay,
Is
that all right? thank you for that sage advice. I appreciate that.
well, I just think that it gives you something solid to
I
work from.
appreciate it. I appreciate that. Yes, very much so.
We all like bigger trees,
Well,
and to be able to plant less of them would be less of a physical strain.
It's not really less, it's gonna be a waiting list, it's gonna continue on
Yeah,
for perpetuity every year.
all right.
maybe somebody will have a big sale, and we'll have more money.
No, I think the idea of if there is opportunity for, if there is in lieu fee that is collected through land development, it would make sense that that money be directed to this kind of effort. And I don't know if that's possible to earmark that as that money comes in, or if it comes in. but this could be a way to,
Well, I mean, I think that's a
Argument.
board action, but yeah, I think there's ways to have that work.
okay. All right. All right, and I'm sorry, I have not put a lot of thought into 2025. I'm just trying to get through this year. But do we want to talk about, we do need to talk about 2025 events goals and what our budget would be. We've already talked a little bit about doing a spring planting.
Well, when is this budget due? When
What
do we-
I'm looking for right now primarily is what are the events and things that you want to do? Because that's what I want you to present to the board over the next 2 months.
Okay,
So like probably beginning of September, I need everybody to come in and present to the board. We would like to, like you mentioned, doing a spring planning and a fall planning. If you have something else that you want to do, like what is it that you're focused on for next year? I'm not as worried about the dollars as I am about what it is, and then we can start talking about what the dollars that tie to it initially. I just need to know what it is you want to do, so we can start putting kind of a presentation together for that purpose.
Or spring fall plan?
we'll have a spring fall planting. The spring planting could pull double duty as our Arbor Day obligation. Depending on if there was maybe one of the public parks that we wanted to do another planting in.
Well, I think you could plant along street. I think if you're planting street trees, that could be an Arbor Day
Okay,
project. I don't think it has to be in the park. I mean,
Well, I didn't know.
obviously, we haven't complained about it being in the park because we got lots of places we want to put trees in our parks. But, you know, if next year you want to try this as the Arbor Day, well, I think that's a great opportunity as well.
okay, all right. Have you heard of any other type of events that the board would like us to engage in or to get more involved with? I know EAC has ideas on things, Newtown in Bloom has suggested. Is there anything that we should be doing other than the fact that we haven't been doing our tree inventory?
I think if you focused on tree inventory and 2 events a year, and
We're
you
good.
did that well,
I like that.
I think that would be a huge win for the community.
Okay. That I think is doable.
I would rather you do 2 events really well. And if you got 5% every year of all the trees that are on the public lands or on streets,
Mhm.
I mean, because that would still take you 20 years to get around and do all the trees if we did just 5% a year. So, I mean, there's
He's good at math.
50,
Mhm.
there's
I'll really be old. at that.
there's 50+ miles of roadway in this town. And that's just the township roads. That's not counting state roads and other things. So if we just did township roads, 50+ miles. I mean, if you did, even 2 miles a year, it would take you 25 years to get through them. Some of the trees would be dead on the first go round, I mean, it would have to go back, so I'm just saying, I think those 2 things would be huge wins for our
Okay.
community.
And so that sort of gets to the budget in a way. I mean, one of the limitations is that we have just one iPad to do the inventory with.
Well, I mean, if you say that I need a second iPad, because if we had 2, we would be able to do this. I think
think
we look
that
at
would
trying to
make
get
it-
a second iPad.
Do you think it would make it easier for you guys?
For us?
You guys?
Yes. I can learn how to use the thing first.
So that's been part of our problem is that the iPad is sometimes being used. And so when we need it, it's not available. So it's not, it's not their fault. It's our fault. It's our fault.
Actually, it's being utilized, but in a very beneficial way.
Exactly.
Aids out.
Oh, okay.
Best form stuff.
Yeah.
Being used, but very good way.
Yeah,
in a very good way, but sometimes it's like,
but if you need a second one, then
I
this,
think if Dave could continue using it for his, and then we had one that was specific for us, so that when we wouldn't have to worry about
yep,
trying to coordinate, I think that would help.
Okay.
And whatever the program is that needs to go with it. So I would like to propose, and I have no idea how much that costs.
I'll talk to George.
Well, we already have the inventory system. He's not gonna charge us for a second. I'll ask him to waive that.
Oh, okay. You mean the program or the?
Program is set up for one user, one tablet. I've asked before for other townships.
Okay. Okay, so we'll get another license, but we need a separate iPad to do it. Okay.
Yeah, I just need what you need out of the iPad, like what level of iPad do you need to be able to do
It's
what
the-
you need?
yeah, Really, you just need an iPad, 156 gigs, so.
Whatever John says we
That's the
need.
most inexpensive one, I think, Steve, that is, 470, 480.
Yeah,
And then we just need to set up. Or maybe we could do that for see, we tried doing it for the August meeting or for our shade tree meetings, and we usually, something always seems to get in the way, either there's a land development thing or something we need to, so. Let's, probably not now, but let's discuss when. Or let's shoot for the August meeting that we're gonna do the training.
Yep.
All right.
How about we do that? So add that as an agenda item,
Yes, ma'am.
and we'll meet here, we'll convene our meeting, then close, and then go to the whatever site or wherever we're gonna, we'll probably go here on, like we did last time, and just do some practice here on the township property, right?
We'll probably go to, Brookside. There's a lot
Okay.
of New trees over there, we'll pick them up and all that good stuff and also.
All right. Awesome, okay, and then we're gonna go to Brookside for iPad tree inventory training.
are you planning on meeting in July?
Oh,
Since you jumped to August,
I did jump to August.
I just was
didn't I?
wondering what your plans
I'm
were.
sorry. I totally forgot.
I think we might have 2 applications in July coming.
Let's shoot for August.
Huh?
Let's shoot for August.
Okay, that's fine. I just, you think you have 2 coming in?
I think.
Okay,
Oh, because we can't do it on any other day but meeting day unless we announce it, correct?
not if you're gonna just go out and do
For
tree
training.
inventory. As long as you're not making a decision,
So
you
it can
can
be,
go
tree-
out.
it can be tree inventory, but it can't be.
Meetings.
Right, because you're not
Meeting-
making a decision.
No.
Like if you're out there and you're saying, we're gonna take this tree down, that can't happen. But you might say as a group, this tree should be on our list for the next agenda. We should recommend this tree come down. That you can do. What you can't do is make a decision in the field and say, this tree needs to come down, have George take it down next week.
Right, okay.
Okay,
Got you.
I mean, can we just pick another Thursday and sort
you
of,
could pick
We can do it.
any time that you all can
why are you
meet
shaking your
and
head?
go do
I'm
that.
saying, yeah.
Oh, okay, you're saying yes.
No, I'm saying, yeah, you
Okay.
can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
As long as you don't discuss business,
I'm sorry.
sunshine law stuff,
Exactly.
if you're out just inventorying
trees.
trees, you're just working. You're
okay.
just volunteering and doing.
Did you want to, Rob, since you're kind of point on this, did you want to set something up
Pick another day and just
or
do it?
pick another day between
So it's
now
not
and
a meeting
August?
day?
I'm available pretty much anytime after 5 o'clock if I know that's gonna be the day. So it's more your schedule and
Well, I need someone to take lead on coordinating that with everybody and setting a time.
you're gonna say you're not available. I'll be in Washington.
Just might be.
I don't know, when do you wanna do it? Dan, when do you wanna do it? Since you're on the thing. tree inventory.
Well, you got sucked in. Yay, Dan.
Spoke the whole time.
July, oh, sure.
I think so, yeah.
Unless you're doing it.
So my other problem is at the end of the month in July, I'm gonna be in West Virginia. So I don't know if I'm even gonna be at the July meeting. I gotta look at my calendar, I guess. Figure that out.
John, what's your schedule? When are you going away?
Not till August.
Okay, so he's available possibly July. You're the end of the month, no good. Carol?
I'm
You don't do
available all the
anything.
time. Call me.
We,
July 18th.
what day is that?
The third, this Thursday.
We saying July 18th?
Works for me.
I'm gonna send a calendar invite, right?
You okay with that one? Trish?
I don't know. I won't, I have no idea.
He just doesn't know yet.
But don't wait on me. I
I
don't,
was supposed to be in Washington. Trip that came
let me see, what day is it?
Thursday.
18th.
I'm going to a luncheon, but I'll be done.
So,
all depends.
so we'll do inventory. And we're gonna meet 18.
Give me an excuse, I have
and
to go
what
back.
time did you wanna do it?
5:30?
Bring pizza?
Could go grab grub afterwards. Bring a snack and that work for you?
It's fine for me. Drink
Right.
what?
All right.
5:30?
Mhm.
Yeah, I put time to be determined in case somebody has to change or is late
Alright.
for work. As we get closer. we'll-
July 18th.
July 18th.
And we're gonna meet here or at Brookside?
Probably Brookside's better, right?
Let's go right to Brookside.
Who's gonna bring,
It's a
who's gonna
workshop,
bring,
not a-
who's gonna pick up?
There'll
the
be a
computer?
meeting here during that time, so you probably
Okay.
just want to meet right at Brookside.
Who's gonna pick up the computer?
I'll just bring my computer for the training, 'cause I have two of them. I'll bring two iPads.
Okay,
That way everybody can practice. And that
Okay.
way, if somebody messes up something, we're not messing up the,
don't look at me when you're
I'm
saying
not
that.
looking, I'm looking at Dan.
Yeah, sure you are.
All right.
So we're meeting
I'm
here?
gonna text
No,
you.
we're gonna meet at Brookside.
Meet at Brookside. Bring your raincoat.
When do we need a budget proposal ready?
I think if you kind of have, I mean, like you, I think I heard you say that your main three things next year are tree inventory and two events. I don't know that I need much more than that today.
Okay,
Yeah, basically the iPad. and-
Yeah, I mean, so
Yeah, two
you,
things.
I mean, we're talking about a $500 investment on the iPad. We're talking about, I think the key there would be however much money, and my preference, I know that EAC is put money to this, but if you guys are doing these events and running these events, just come up with the money. Tell me what you guys want as a budget. And, you know, I'd rather go one bucket and keep it in versus me trying to take it out of two different buckets.
Speaking of buckets, what about all the things we put on the budget for this past, for
Yeah.
this year's budget that we haven't gotten yet?
Well, you just need to let me know what you want to do.
Just like anything else, Carol, like when you you gotta have a request. If you have something you need to purchase for the budget, then request. Heather, and then she'll pass it along to.
Well, we did that last year, but we haven't. Apparently, there's another step we have to do.
What are you wanting to purchase?
Oh, we wanted name tags, we wanted a banner, we wanted shirts.
Have you come up with the design for the banner?
Oh,
I mean, I need I need to
Yeah.
know those kind of things so that we can get
Needs
pricing.
an actual, like, proposal. If you're gonna get it from Joe's shirt shop, you need to send Steve a proposal stating it's gonna be $300 for the shirts.
that's what.
Then Steve will cut a PO for, but that comes out of your budget, just purchase, just like any of this.
Yeah, it was Rob's bucket, I was just,
Yes.
Exactly, you know, you just write it down,
Okay.
the budget sheet, it's this, you know.
All right. Will you have,
Well, I
one?
may
Sure you're gonna do that?
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, so I know Andy was working very
No,
closely.
Andy and I and George have walked through this multiple times.
We had a-
No, that's okay. I'm good to go with it. Well, I say I'm good to go with it. I may not be, but we can go with it.
Okay,
We're good with it. They may not be good.
all right,
Yeah.
so when do you need our 2025 budget to you though?
I need your, if you're set with what you want to do. And then if you could get me a rough estimate of what you think the 2 tree plantings would cost you,
Spring and fall,
spring and fall.
okay,
I mean, I have enough on the other. It doesn't have to be finalized until September. But I need something just so we can put together a presentation to the board. I would want one of you there as we go through it. It'll be a page in a list of things that we're gonna go through,
Okay,
okay?
so now we have for this planting. It was around, what did we say?
around 8,000.
Around $8,000. Would it be, could we bump that up to 10? And then that way we get a few more extra trees and if we're.
Are you wanting
these-
20,000 then?
Well,
different-
that's what it might end up
I
being.
don't know that I can jump that much next year,
Okay,
but here's what I would tell
we
you.
can ask, right?
You can ask, and that's the whole
Well,
purpose.
that's what I'm saying, I mean, ask for this and that, this is what we're planning to do.
Yeah,
You know, that's pretty much our whole budget is what we wanna do is that,
Yeah.
if it is what it is, I mean, I know things comes up and money's not coming in with the township, with the revenue and stuff like that, you know, it is what it is, but it don't hurt to ask, if they say, yeah, we'll give you 10, then we. You know.
if you only have 10, maybe you only do one
One
planting.
planting, you know,
Yeah.
you do it in the spring or what, and you figure it out, or spread it half and half, you know, the fall hazard, you know, the spring ones are okay, the fall ones that are on fall hazard, you plant in the fall, and the people wait till the fall, you know?
Yep,
And
Okay.
fall is the best time to plant anyway, on certain, you know.
normally, yeah. And it may be that we do a smaller one in the spring, maybe it's $5,000 in the spring and $8,000 in the fall, or $10,000 in the fall, and that's your approach.
Okay,
you
I
know?
mean, even if it's 12 and you do 30 and 30, you know, 30 in the, you know, on a street, 30 trees on the street is a lot.
Yeah.
If you look down the street, you know, see it.
but that would be the smaller,
What's that?
smaller caliber?
Larger, 30 and 30, 12 range is like, you know what I mean?
Oh, I see what you
Okay.
mean. Okay,
Do that 6,000.
okay,
I'll figure it out.
you figure it
I'll
out.
figure it out.
Carol, you'll get us prices or you'll get us prices for shirts, or Rob will get us prices for shirts and.
Robert started that. I was just bringing up the,
Yeah, I gotta talk to Suzanne. I haven't had a chance. It hasn't rained, so I didn't have a rainy day to go and talk to Suzanne where she bought her shirts for the supervisors and all.
She didn't buy them.
I thought she bought shirts for them.
Supervisors bought their own clothes.
That's why I didn't think Tina did. When I talked to Tina, I thought they said the township.
Leonard did it. Leonard did everything, and I think
I
he
read-
had them all pay him back.
Really?
We didn't do anything for them.
Now,
Nope.
well, who ordered them? Did Leonard order them?
Leonard ordered them. But
Really?
that being said, we did order some for staff. So we would go through the same company we went through for staff.
Oh, so you have stuff that
Yeah.
say, like with the
Logo.
shirt like this, with it said, would say Shade Tree Commission in
Yeah.
your name? Who ordered them?
We did, the staff.
Who's,
I think Suzanne did. I don't remember.
well,
if
I
Suzanne-
think that's what I heard.
Yeah.
Suzanne's name was in there to ask her.
Yeah, but we're probably gonna go through. Yeah, for now, we'll just, I don't want to give anything else to Suzanne right now.
I mean, I could order if I knew
We'll work, I'll have Suzanne turn it over to Desiree. And we'll get it done through there.
Right,
Desiree's the new hire.
okay, so she's gonna get the prices for the shirts?
But just tell
They're
her,
gonna do the work.
tell her what you want. Then I will have her work with, I'll have Desiree reach out, get you some examples, and then you can pick which ones you want, and then we can go.
Okay. All right. And the other things, like we put in for like measuring sticks and stuff like that,
You
and
just, whatever that is, you just need to let me know. I don't,
let you know,
yeah, I need a vendor that you want to use And, you know, if you want to use the one that we already have set up, check with George, like if you know, he can tell you, like, I think we have Uniline and we have, I don't know who has like what you
At
need.
Forestry Supply, I just, you could go, probably go American Arborist and get that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Just get the information. you know.
Yeah,
yeah, we'll
get it set up.
work through George and get those.
All right. All right,
Put that on.
yeah.
All right.
All right. So are we done? Are you good with our budget and plans discussions?
Yeah, for now, I have enough to get
Okay.
us started.
All right. Discussion and possible action on e-newsletter articles. Didn't we already have a list of who was doing?
We
what?
we
Who's
do.
Who's
have a
on
list.
deck?
Actually, Mr. Flynn is on deck for this coming month.
All right.
And he knows he already has figured out his topic. He just has to get something to me by the 8th or 10th of July. And then it can, go in the list.
refresh his memory. Watering trees, watering large trees.
EAB, thank you.
Got it.
Got it.
What is it on?
Yeah,
Ashes, or
Oh.
ashes and emerald ash borer. Oh, Mr. Hausback,
Yes, ma'am.
you had come up with the tree of the month.
Yep.
Are you going to continue on the tree of the month thing? Because we only had one thing for tree of the month.
Whatever you would like me to do, Ms. Carroll.
If you have the information and you want to throw together another,
I'll do
Tree.
it every month. If you want to do a tree of the month, I'll do it every month.
I'd love it.
So July 8th has to be in.
About the 8th, yeah. I haven't heard, haven't heard from Heather yet what, exactly when it has to be in, but it's usually around the 10th to the 12th, but
I can just do a bunch. I can just do some volume and send them all over and just label them per month.
okay,
Perfect.
I could do that.
Awesome.
That would be cool, because that was really nice. It was nice to read that. It was nice.
That was the first one I did, right?
Yep,
It was on the Hackberry.
yes, it was.
So,
Celtus Occidentalis.
so what's the, so who's on deck for August?
I need to find that paper. Uh-oh, guess what? Found it. August is deer protection, also by John Rockwell Hosback.
Did that corroborate anything yet? I haven't heard his name.
You already said you're writing my article. You volunteered.
Well, we have at August, that's August. September is still open. November and December is open.
We need a professional editor just to go through your mistakes. And
I'll do the budget. You can write my article.
Okay, so yeah, Dan was up for 2 and John Rice did 1. I've done 2.
I'll do that.
You can do another one?
Yeah.
You want to do September, November, or December, and what do you want to talk about?
Probably September.
One of us, not to interrupt you, Ms. Carroll, one of us should definitely do a small article about what our goal is for this planting plan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
So Josh,
yeah,
I want to take that for Carol.
yeah, that can be a,
Our vision, our impact, you
So
know, your statement.
that might be good for, do you think, when are we gonna send out the mailers, do you think? Do you think we should have an article
August.
and then send out the mailer? It could sort of kind of reach people as a primer.
I mean, you can just know that the articles going out to
the whole
the
township.
township, you're really aiming for
And
a
the-
very small.
I'm just talking about your vision.
But if we
What you're
talk
doing,
about,
talk about each.
Yeah, I
My
would just
point
say-
is on that, I think if I was talking about the vision, I would want it closer to the time I was planting, because then people would see it.
okay.
But I mean, that's just my thought. You could
Then
say,
how about if we do it after? Why don't we do it for the November?
Sure, maybe you can show some highlights of it. A couple
Mhm.
pictures can be in the article of the highlights.
before and after
Yeah.
the impact on the street.
There you go.
Or maybe that should be in December, because we're gonna be probably planting after the newsletter, the November newsletter is due. So we can do it in December.
There you go.
All right, so I can volunteer to do that. I just volunteered myself.
That
Now I have
means,
to now I
that
have to
means
and remind myself too.
that means the November article goes to Rob Vanicola. What are you gonna write on, Rob? Well, you're the only one that
Whatever
isn't on the
John wants
list
to
for the
write.
whole year.
I'll take a Rob for you,
Thanks, John.
that you're donating your equipment for digging trees. I'll take it.
What did you say for September?
You, it's
Pick
you,
whatever you want.
Well, I know it's me, but you had a recommendation.
No, we were gonna do for the planting the big, but we're gonna wait.
Oh, we're not doing
what do you want to talk about? Let me see, you already did value of trees.
Talk about leaving your leaves in your beds and stuff like that.
Stuff that's good for fall.
heritage trees. Who did heritage?
Nobody.
You aren't doing anything on heritage.
These were just ideas. These are just
Oh.
options. But September would be more,
Something about leaves.
probably,
Yeah.
Leave-
Of your leaves, mulching.
leave the leaves.
Okay. All right,
So we still have.
we don't have to make any kind of motion on who's doing what, right? Okay,
Search and stuff we just took care of.
yeah, that was under the budget.
Yep.
Okay, oh, we got the tag shirts and QR codes. I thought we voted on the QR codes last time.
Budget, combined.
Oh, so do we need to continue to discuss that?
Nope.
Okay. All right, consider approving a request from Newtown Square in Bloom to plant additional trees along Goshen Road through 2024. Healing the Planet Grant program funded by Giant and matched by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So I know, Carol, you've been having some conversation with those back and forth with those folks, or am I
Nope.
mistaken? Am I
No,
mistaken?
must be some other wonderful woman you were talking to.
They've reached out to me about,
I think I can,
Okay,
so they're looking for help on the plan.
okay. So do you, and I apologize, those flurry of emails came in when I was just slammed with work and I really didn't have a chance to digest it. Do you have a good sense of what they're,
Quantity,
yeah, of what
yeah.
they're doing? You can turn on your.
Yeah, I think it was. What the email?
And I know, while he's looking that up, I know that they were also coordinating with Dave.
yeah, I think the initial idea was to plant in every place where there was a hole today. And we came back and said there was actually some purpose for some of those holes. That we don't want to plant in every hole just to have a tree.
Okay.
So I know they're working on, I think it's a $4,000 grant, the match is another $4,000, it's $8,000.
It's, there are 33 trees and 30 shrubs.
Okay, all right.
So, but I think we're gonna cut that back a little bit with the recommendation to go in and do some vine removal. And where we do the vine removal, then come in and do the planting.
Okay, and then so with the vine removal, are you going to be treating it as well?
Dave is
Okay.
working on that to
Okay.
get over to Paul.
Okay.
Paul had kind of gone down and counted all the places where there were empty spots. And there was a reason why we have empty spots in certain
You
places.
remember that?
And so we want to hold off on just filling every empty spot. So what you're looking to do is say you're in agreement with the plan that they're coming up with up to 30 shrubs and up to 33 trees
Okay.
in that area.
Okay, Alrighty. I make a motion to, make a recommendation to approve the request from Newtown Square in Bloom to plant additional trees around Goshen Trail, roughly around 33 shrubs and bushes, give or take. And this program will be funded by a grant through Giant Markets and matched by the state of Pennsylvania or the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Do I have a second?
Second.
Dan seconds, all in favor? Aye. Okay, passes unanimously. Okay. Moving on to old business, since Andy isn't here.
You can discuss it.
Huh?
You can discuss it.
I haven't read it.
Oh, well, then don't discuss it. But let me, if I can, I'm gonna.
Oh,
I
if you
can
could
take-
give us an overview, I was hoping Andy could give us an overview of what the changes were and kind of the wherewithals before I dug into.
Yeah, so let me kind of talk about a couple things that are still in it that are still under review.
Okay,
And I think we're having discussion about where they're gonna fall. So one of a couple of changes were more procedural. We changed the director to mean township manager, and whoever my designee is. That way I can designate whoever it needs to be in our staff, based on what's going on. And so we did that. The one thing that's under a close review is heritage tree. I think heritage trees are actually going to come out from underneath shade tree. And then we're going to look at putting them under the Historic Commission, with the idea that the Historic Commission, we actually have a way right now to designate something as being historic and having that kind of value. It would be then designated by them, and then they would look for you guys to help and assist in how to best maintain those type of trees, is what I think we're looking for, versus you guys, versus this commission having to try and figure out how to maintain historic trees, not maintain, but how to determine whether there's a historic tree on a property or something like that, or a heritage tree on a property. And so that's what's being looked at with that. We did change a little bit of the definition related to shade tree.
wait, before we move on from heritage tree,
Yep,
does then what we would be under our purview would be this specimen tree? Because we had a definition in the original, or in the one that I think that I had commented on, there was a definition of,
I think that was taken out.
okay, so we're not protecting any big trees
No,
under our ordinance.
you would, any tree that falls into the right of way would still be under your protection. Like, if it's a heritage tree that falls under the right of way, it still becomes under your protection. If it's a tree that would be on the township property, it would be under your protection. So if it's on public property and or in the right of way, it's under you.
Okay, so if something, so this doesn't include anything for land development then?
There is a small section under land development still in here. I don't think we're taking that may come out. The board is looking at that with the legal side.
So we wouldn't be reviewing any land development code, and there wouldn't be any protection for any of the trees that that were in the previous one?
Well,
under
there's
land
the
development?
protection is still under the land development code. So that hasn't changed. It's just where it's being reviewed from.
So we won't have any review.
What I'm
hearing.
it's currently still in here, but it may come out, is what I'm saying. the focus of the Shade Tree Commission and what the second-class township code allows for shade trees is really only anything that's in the right of way on the streets of the town. The township has given authority over all of the trees on township public property to this commission. We did change some things related to the permits. That, those are issued by the director, after review by the planning commission or by the Shade Tree Commission, and the township arborist. So that we've set that in place. The other area, we looked at a couple areas related to what's the term I want? I'm sorry, it's skipping me. The list related to specimens of trees. We've recommended a little bit of potentially being a little bit broader, in that we're hearing that trees that were maybe not necessarily native to Pennsylvania are now doing better because of climate change in Pennsylvania. And so we've tried to open that up a little bit in this area, so that you might consider expanding that and putting that on. It has been, I would say it has been kind of condensed down to really the focus on right of way and public property. Those are the focuses of the shade tree. And if you think about like what we've talked about, where your focus is, that's really where we want the focus of the commission.
So that's great for us. So can I just ask a question then on a whole? How is the township planning to protect and make sure that there's adequate offset? Because we could sit here and plant trees and do our little 40 trees a year that we get planted. And it's a drop in the bucket to the number of trees that are being removed through land development or redevelopment or something like that, or what a private landowner is doing on their property. So how, can I finish? Wait. So what's the township doing? So I have a better understanding of how those trees are being addressed, the removal of those trees being addressed, and especially, and I know this isn't my lane, but if we're already at a deficit with trying to meet some of our MS4, and we know what the value of trees are to helping ameliorate that, is that impact from the removal of all those trees on private property outside of our purview? I get that. But how is that being addressed through the township, or is that going to be put on taxpayers in order to come up with that deficit?
So here's the thing. Our land development rules have not changed, have been in place from before this commission was ever established. And we're always being watched. In the past, it was being done by our engineering staff. We now use the township arborist to do that all the time. I mean, every plan goes to John for review for that. And that will continue to happen. That's not going to change. That was one of the benefits of having a set arborist do that. And so we're getting that. But I've been here for 10 years. The Shade Tree Commission's been probably, 4 of those. And I've gone through multiple land development plans where we went through and said, you don't have enough trees to plant back here, or do you have to take these trees down? We've negotiated with them, and we've been doing that for years. So that's going to continue as part of the process. The piece that is probably the most different that's coming out of the ordinance, and we would tell you we never had the authority to enforce it anyhow, is related to the homeowner who, after they buy their house and they come in and decide they want to take down 20 trees in their backyard, we have no authority to tell them they can't do that. You and I and EAC and everyone can talk about the benefits of trees and why it's important not to do that. We can encourage people not to do that, but we do not, there's nothing in the state code that gives the township the authority to determine whether a tree can come down. There just isn't. And so we're not willing to step into that direction as a township and take the risk of being in court over something that we have no authority over.
Okay, that's helpful. So then, honestly, I would rather us not review anything related to that, and let us focus on the stuff that happens on the road, on the roads, and in the parks. I
That's the
mean,
main piece of it.
I mean, then I don't even think that we need to be looking at like this thing that we did this week. Why are we even looking at that? It's just, if John's opinion,
Well,
you know,
just talk about that,
certainly-
bringing stuff to your attention. It's a 5-minute conversation. I think it's important,
not really.
especially if there's something, substance.
I don't know. I don't know. I
Well,
don't see that there's a lot of value added to it.
This. Let Steve figure out what's getting pulled and moved to different sections, and then we'll reconvene on it. We know what our focus is right now. Let's get this buttoned up, let Rich and Steve and Andy and everybody button this up, and then come back to us with what they feel. Then we can start having questions.
I think one
We've had a
thing,
lot of questions about this one, and they're working on it. So let's
Yeah.
wait until it's complete.
so I think one thing that's lacking that I kind of appreciated in the first ordinance is that it gave what our purpose was, and I don't see that here. That seemed to be removed.
Okay.
And so, just at first blush. Mhm.
I think 158-2, which is on page, would be page 3. About a third of the way down.
Yeah,
I mean, it's pretty broad, but
it doesn't really give us direction on what we're supposed to be doing. So I think that needs to be beefed up a little bit more,
well,
honestly.
Okay.
All right, but we'll review it. I just think, again, it's just I just kind of, I don't know exactly. So this is why I just keep, I've kept coming back to the purpose. So exactly, I keep asking you, what are we supposed to be doing and what is the
well,
purview of our
I
review?
think I've
So
been
that's where
saying this,
it's-
but I'll say it, I'll try to say it again, is that the focus is shade trees located in the right of way around the township and on trees on public property. And I think if you focus on those, I think you have 20+ years of work to do today.
So
And
that just, so this is where I'm talking about. So our direction is that we're supposed to be inventorying trees. So this is the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. It's just like, okay, so our purview is over the public trees and street trees, but in what regard? I mean, are we supposed to be working on encouraging planting of more? We're going to review their removal or something along
Yes.
those lines.
you are
So-
involved in anything if it is in the right of way on a township road, you have, I'm gonna say this because the one thing that overrides it is the PUC has given authority to
Sure.
Pico to go
Sure.
butcher a tree any way they want.
Right,
Uh,
of course, understood.
I mean, so when I say this, I always have to state that because that's what's allowed, but a homeowner does not have a right to take down a shade tree that, as we defined it, we defined a shade tree as any tree that's planted in the right of way and or on public road or public property. So public property, the township, our staff can't just arbitrarily go and clean off areas. We have to come back to you,
Sure.
have those discussions. Shade trees, any shade tree on the 50+ miles of roadway around this town has to be gone and reviewed by this committee before it, if it needs to be pruned, how it's pruned, you can determine that, you can give guidance on that. If it's gonna be cut down, you can look at it, review it, determine whether or not it should be. If you look at it and say there's no reason for this tree to come down, just because the owner wants to take it down doesn't mean they can take it down. So this is the one area of authority that you have clean authority on and direction over. If it is in a public right of way, that tree belongs under your purview and your authority.
Okay, that's helpful. And I think maybe if the purpose was sort of, you know, kind of talks a little bit more about, because it does just kind of say maintenance. And so what does exactly that mean? And also, because it's not clear, I think.
Well, I think that's it. I think what I'd ask you to do is I'd ask you to read
Read
the
it,
whole
okay.
ordinance.
Okay,
And if you come back and you would like to beef that up and you have a proposal,
okay,
feel free to give us proposed writing.
okay, all right. I'll be happy to
We
do that.
tried to simplify, our whole purpose of, when we looked at it, was to say, if we're really saying it's this, shade trees and public trees, we want to focus it and keep it that simple. We felt like there was confusion before, and we were trying to take all the confusion out, and we wanted to bring it down to what it really was. And like I said, it's not finalized yet, so if you have something that you want to send, go ahead and read through it. The two pieces that I know that are being evaluated that I think are still in it, and the land development may come out, I didn't see it in this copy, and I'll have to
I'm
look.
not seeing-
The one piece that was the heritage tree, and there's been talk about moving that under the historic commission because they already have authority to be on a property and look at it from that standpoint.
Well, that makes sense.
And so we said that would be there. Now, we did talk about the fact that maintaining a heritage tree may need to come under you because they're not experts on tree. And so that's the one thing that we did say, that the maintenance of a heritage tree may still come underneath your purview. So in other words, if somebody came in and said, we want to trim back this tree,
I see,
that you guys would weigh in on how that's done to make sure that,
okay,
you know, my idea of trimming a tree may not be the best way to go trim it. You know, I can't take off
right.
the big limbs. You got to keep those, right? Because they have value.
So for instance, so the big, what is it, a white oak that I have? I have I have a white oak. It's over 32 dBH.
Yep.
And it's,
And the right of way.
and it's in the right of way. So,
It
it
could have a
doesn't,
double designation.
it
could be
doesn't
a heritage
matter.
tree
well, it
and a
doesn't,
right away tree.
right, so it doesn't matter if it's if that was just located just outside of the right of way, then I could cut that thing down with no recourse. Is that right?
That's
Wow,
that is
that's
correct.
sad. Okay, and, okay.
But that's
But
the
that
reason why
might-
we put it under the heritage, under the historic commission. They have an overlay.
Yeah, but we
District.
were trying to preserve all specimen trees too, so that's what that, I mean, that's when the definition was revised where heritage, because it was confusing, because it had to have some sort of historical designation, blah, 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 blah. But then it was, what about the really big trees that are over 200 years old? How do we protect those? So those have no protection under
Well, they could still
this,
be a heritage
unless
tree.
it's,
If you want to define that in that, if you want to give a recommendation, how that's defined.
So we could-
so you could just say if or a specimen tree.
Correct.
Okay,
And, you know, it may not meet, let's say it doesn't meet the DBH, but because it's the right specimen, it may be something that should have, I mean, something that's 200 years old, that's, I mean, I think that starts falling under the historic definition that we have, because we use 75 years as historic.
I mean, that's about what Carol sort of, that's with her expert opinion.
It's a lot younger than my mom.
So everybody's gonna read through this
Yeah.
before the July.
I'll redo it. Okay.
Move on.
We said yes. Okay, so,
We even had a motion that said
Yes.
yes.
so it's official.
Oh, I'll get the letter signed. I don't have it with me, but I'll get the letter signed in the morning and we'll scan it over to you.
All right, and so do we have any commission public comment?
Yes.
Go ahead, Paul.
Come in with some, but now you've raised questions. So how is it?
Wait a minute, you gotta state your name, your
Paul Stellingson,
address.
4727 Mill Hollow Lane. How is it that Radnor, I mean, I'm just hearing the complaints about Radnor, that it's very, very constrictive. And you deal with Radnor, right, John? So tell us, how does Radnor deal with this whole tree situation and being able to cut down trees on your private property?
Yeah, I think there's two things. First of all, Radnor is a first-class township, so they have different guidelines they fall under than we do. We're not a first-class township, so we have first-class townships, third-class cities, second-class cities, boroughs, all have authorities that second-class townships do not.
Got it.
That I do know.
Okay, so thank you for that answer. And now the next one is, you talk about right away on public streets, but there's two different public streets here. There's state streets and then there's township streets. Are you saying that the Shade Tree Commission has jurisdiction over state roads like 252?
I'm not. I was very careful to talk about the 50+ miles of township-owned streets.
So township road. So like Media Line Road, that's a township road. Goshen Road, state road.
That's correct.
Okay.
Media line.
Media Line, I think, is a state road as well.
State road.
Yeah.
So therefore your White Oak does not have
No,
protection.
but
No,
that
Gradyville,
section,
I'm on Gradyville.
Oh, great.
that section of Gradyville is township-owned.
Oh,
It's,
okay.
that section of Gradyville is the townships.
Gotcha. Okay.
Cause I even saw Steve in a plowing.
Well, they
our-
go.
Those are
Howard.
my questions.
That they are-
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Okay. I think we've collected our agenda items, right? For next,
Yeah, I'll get them.
okay, they're in the notes. We're not
They're in
gonna,
there
we're not gonna
somewhere.
recash that. Okay, alrighty. So then, I say meeting adjourned.